Good evening. I am Vickie Longino, and I am Eddie's sister-in-law. And so I would like to share some personal thoughts about Eddie with you. My first introduction to Eddie came at a basketball game at Saltillo in the fall of 1982. I had come to cheer on my little sister, Karen, who was a senior on the team at the time. Well, I soon found out I wasn't the only one cheering for my sister. There were two strange guys sitting behind me, and you don't have too many strange guys in Saltillo when you go up there. So I couldn't imagine who this was. And so I finally turned around and said, "Who are you?" Well, turns out he didn't know my sister either. But he was attracted to her as soon as he saw her, and he had asked one of the local guys for her name. Eddie was from Garland, and it was divine intervention that he had wound up in a basketball gym in Saltillo that night. Well, that was my first clue that Eddie had great judgment, because less than a year later, he was my brother-in-law. At the young age of 19, he had weighed all the evidence. Karen was a beautiful, godly young woman, and she had fallen for him as quickly as he had for her, and so he wasted no time in making her his wife. As a matter of fact, James and I had been dating for 4 years. And we only picked them getting married about 6 months. So he was almost in real trouble. My parents, Doris and Calvin White, had come to know and love Eddie, and they felt that he was the right life partner for her. Eddie's parents, on the other hand, were not quite so sure. He was, after all, a college student, only 19 years old, and they knew very little about this little country bumpkin he found. However, just last month on Eddie's 48th birthday, his mother wrote on his Facebook page, quote, "I tried to save you from the fatal mistake of getting married too young. Whew, glad I failed." And we are too. Even though we really liked Eddie at the time, we had no way of knowing the man he would become. Becoming that man has taken lots of twists and turns. I laugh and tell Eddie that since he doesn't believe in reincarnation, he's tried to squeeze all his lifetime into this one. When you talk to Eddie, you sense that he understands you, that he cares about you, and that he knows where you're coming from. I think some of that comes from his varied career experiences. God has led him from throwing papers as a young boy in Garland, to working the line at Specialty Foods as a newlywed, to having his own law practice here in Silver Springs, and just a few things in between. The thing that amazes me most is that he's really good at whatever he does. I believe that it's because he has many God-given gifts and talents, and he seeks to use those to honor the Lord. And second, he gives his all to whatever he does. As a minister to youth and senior adults in De Leon, he led an active, growing youth group. But it was the senior adults that loved and adored him. As a 5th grade teacher, he was great. Kids who had never liked learning before were excited to get to Mr. Northcutt's class, and their test grades showed it. Now, my sister Karen is the most dedicated and supportive wife anyone could ever hope for. And she had been right there with Eddie through each career change. But when he started talking about law school at the age of 34, she wasn't so sure. However, even before law school, Eddie had an instinct for presenting his case and being quite persuasive. It wasn't long, after much prayer, that Karen was on board with the new plan. And as usual, Eddie excelled. After 3 years of commuting from Silver Springs and working part-time while Karen supported the family as a home health nurse, Eddie graduated with honors from SMU Law School. I don't know of anything else that he has done that says commitment, tenacity, and hard work more than this, unless maybe it's the crazy notion he got a couple of years ago to train for and complete an Ironman triathlon. As impressive as all these achievements are, I know without a doubt that the role Eddie puts high above any other is that of husband, dad, and family man. Karen and Eddie were awfully young when they married, but I've seen their love and commitment to each other continue to grow over the last 29 years, and that, I believe, of their lives and their marriage. They were blessed early on with one son, Charlie, and James and I soon became the doting Aunt Dee Dee and Uncle Dennis. Eddie claims that Charlie wasn't dethroned until our daughter Lauren was born, and then it happened rather abruptly. By this time, they had their second son, Graham, and we soon had a second daughter. I appreciate a lot of things about Eddie, but I'm especially grateful that he moved his family back here, and we were able to spend so much time together while raising our children. Eddie's been a wonderful father to his boys, teaching by example, instructing, disciplining, coaching their teams, and supporting their many endeavors. Most recently, traveling all over the country to see Graham run cross-country for Texas A&M, or not cross-country. He did both cross-country too, and distance. There's much more I could say, but I think you get the general idea that I kind of like the guy, and I think he would make a great judge. If you know Eddie at all, you probably feel exactly the same way. The community showed their trust in him and respect for his leadership abilities when they elected him to the school board, both here and in De Leon, when he was made chairman of the deacon body of Sulphur Springs First Baptist Church, and when he was asked to serve on numerous boards in the city. We may not have a big influence on what goes on in Washington, but we can make sure that our city carries on the tradition of promoting truth and justice throughout the 8th Judicial District in the tradition of Judge Newsom and Judge Ramsey. We can do this by electing a true conservative, my brother-in-law, Eddie Northcutt, as our next district judge.